Hey, what's up, everybody? Chicago Gooner here, bringing another Arsenal talk. Well, I said after my Watford episode, if there was anything interesting for me to talk about during week, because as I said, maybe possibly next weekend after the Everton game would be my next episode. But said if anything interesting happened during this week that deserved an episode, well, I would make one. Well, a lot of interesting things happened over the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 days. Actually, over the last 2 weeks, it's been a PR nightmare for Arsenal over the last couple weeks. A little over 2 weeks now, 2.5 weeks actually. And I'm going to go over the timeline with you. And, the PR staff over at Arsenal currently must be just pulling their fucking hair out, which, of what has occurred over the last 2.5 weeks. It really is a PR nightmare when you look at from the start of it to now. So I'm going to go over the timeline. It started directly after the Man United game. Of course, Arsenal loses that game 3-2 to a reserve team, to a bunch of kids. An 18-year-old kid outplayed a 27-year-old striker or winger, or he misses the wing. He misses being a striker. He doesn't want to be a striker. Who knows what fucking Theo Walcott actually wants to do, except cash his paycheck every single week. So after that Man United game, and there was a video credit to Hugh Wizzy of making the video and being that eagle eye. Arsenal fans are not stupid. It's come to a point that you cannot pull wool over our eyes anymore. There's a lot of fans paying attention. There's a lot of fans paying attention even to the past, remembering the past, and we all like to do that. We remember things, and there's a lot of it in this video coming up. But the war chest, he did a video, he mapped it all out directly after the Mirror and I believe another publication said that Arsene Wenger is going to have a war chest of about 50 million pounds to spend in the summer. Of course, another publication, I believe it was a Mirror, saying that he's going to have 75 million pounds to spend over the summer. Well, that number is still low to me, especially the 50 million. That's just a joke. 75 million, that's a joke as well. You might be able to buy two players with that, maybe. Maybe one good player and then maybe a bench player after that. But considering that by the time the summer ends, Arsenal will have in excess of anywhere from 240 to 260 million pounds in the bank collecting interest. So those numbers don't make any sense. Of course, Hugh Wizzy mapped it all out. He went back all the way back to 2012 on Twitter. The same publications were written. Of course, you look at the Mirror. The Mirror seems like that is the go-to news outlet for Arsenal, where they leak some news out to the public. And this is what a PR team does to calm the storm. Throw water on a burning fire instead of gasoline. And back in maybe 2012, even 2013, Arsenal fans would actually get excited about it. Oh, we're finally going to start spending. Oh, he's going to have that much money to spend in the summer. Oh my God, we can't wait. But now it's 2016, 4 years after the fact, and you can't pull the wool over our eyes anymore. Of course, it comes after a devastating loss. After that loss, a lot of people were questioning if we could even win the league anymore. It was that bad. But of course, what the PR staff wasn't in store for was the fact that 3 days later we lost to Swansea at home, and that was when that was the meltdown. Um, you listen to podcasts or Arsenal Fan TV, you see all the videos, and I mean it was a fucking meltdown. It was a meltdown of all meltdowns from the last even 3 4 years. But the war chest, I mean, why keep on coming out with that stuff? You might get some new fans that are excited about it. Maybe they've only been following the Arsenal for maybe 2 or 3 years, and yeah, those people would probably get excited about it. But people who have been with the club for four plus, maybe 5 plus years, especially the old timers. The old timers, they just don't, they don't even pay attention to that shit anymore because they've heard it all. But new fans, they would probably think, oh my God, cool, we're gonna have this much money, even though it's a ridiculously low number. When the access should be, Arsene Wenger's going to have 100 million pounds to spend in the summer. He's going to have 125 million pounds to spend in the summer. That would make more sense, but it's not going to pull the wool over our eyes. Okay, so this kind of PR, this leaked out into Twitter and of course all the news publications, and they thought it was going to calm the storm, but of course we lose a Swansea 3 days later, and it was still a meltdown. Like I said, it was the meltdown of all meltdowns. So what did they do next? They start a rumor. They start another rumor that Thierry Henry is going to be the heir apparent. He's going to be the successor of Arsene Wenger when he finally retires. Of course, a day later or 2 days later, I believe, that's when Thierry Henry announces on his Twitter page that he has his A license through UEFA, that now he can coach and manage anyone in the lower tiers of football in Europe. He can't coach top flight though. He needs his pro license to do that. So again, that doesn't make any sense. Of course, they're trying to leak out information. Oh, Thierry Henry. Oh my God, he's going to be the successor. He's one of the best footballers that ever come through Arsenal. He's iconic. He's still in the limelight. He's always supporting Arsenal still. Oh God, this would be perfect. But again, he doesn't have his fucking pro license at all. Now, I wouldn't doubt from now until maybe close to the end of the summertime or close to the next season that Arsenal helps him speed track to so that he can get that pro license. If he does, then if you see Arsenal or if you see Thierry Henry on the bench next season with Arsenal as a coach, then you might want to start thinking about uh, that might be true. That rumor might be true. But again, they're just trying to, it's a PR spin. It's trying to make your customers feel better. And again, people kind of basically just ignore this. But once Terry came out with his, congratulations, him thanking everybody that was involved to get his badges and stuff like that through UEFA, some people were actually thinking about it. Were like, is this real? I mean, is this really real? Um, I made an episode last season about him or Dennis Bergkamp potentially taking over Arsenal one day. One day, that's a long time from now, in my opinion. Um, because after thinking about that, Henri doesn't have. I mean, he literally has zero experience as a manager. He has zero experience as coaching wise. Yeah, he's coaching. He got his badges through coaching the under 16s, all well and good. But when you compare 16-year-olds or under 16-year-olds to full-fledged adults who have huge egos, that's two different things. When you're still that age of 14, 15, 16 years old, you're still actually listening to your coaches. You still want to actually learn about the game, to where when you start to become an adult, you kind of slack off a little bit from what maybe a coach wants to try to teach you and stuff. That's pretty much obvious. You see you see Theo Walcott, Oxley Chamberlain. Those are two guys that just, since they've been with the club, they haven't improved one bit. They're the same player from when they came into the club. So obviously some of these players aren't listening to the coaches. So you would think, okay, what, Terry Henry's going to take over and everybody's going to listen to him? I just don't buy it. Not right now. Especially without any. The only thing he has going for him is he's a legend of the club. That's it. That is it. He has no experience. He has no experience of dealing with some of these guys. And again, being a manager, you would think if Arson was going to, uh, you know, actually see out his contract. Okay, there's only less than a year. I mean, he has this whole season next year, and then he has 9 games left this season. That's it. Um, are they going to fast track Henri next season? It's like, okay, this is how you do this. This is how you do this. This, there's a lot to learn. to become a manager, even to try to take over for a guy, another legend of the club, and Arsene Wenger. There's a lot to know. There's a lot to, how is he going to pick his coaching staff? He's just going to leave everybody on from Arsenal's staff. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? It's a scary thought still, but at the same time, I just can't see it happening unless you see Henry on the bench next season. Um, it's just another made up bullshit PR move by Arsenal to try to calm down the fans. So after about a week of that, this past weekend, I did my last video, the positives of my little mini series of Arsenal Football Company, and it just kind of validated everything that Stan Kroenke said over the weekend. It was at an MIT conference, and he actually did give an interview, which is very rare of Stan Kroenke to actually give an interview and even talk about his teams or talk about Arsenal, because he hardly ever does it. You could probably go back in time and look up Stan Kroenke and Arsenal, and there are very few. There are very few interviews of him even talking about Arsenal. And I'll go, just kind of like, with my videos, I didn't really talk about it, and I was too pissed off from Watford to even talk about it as well. But it kind of just validated everything that I said, especially in the Arsene Wenger part one about Arsenal being a business now, Arsenal being a company now. Of course, I try to, bring this to Reddit 2 weeks ago, obviously, and I was bashed for it. I was told to go fuck off, and of course, Stan Kroenke said that we are a brand. We're not a football club. We're a brand. He also said in that interview that um, if you get into this business of buying a sports team, it's not to win trophies. I mean, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Um, I'll take you back to an interview that was done in October of 2013, I believe, or it was December, one of the two, where Stan Kroenke gave an interview. That was like one of the last times I ever heard of him taking an interview and reading an article about it. But he tried to say that Ozil was just the beginning. Okay, uh, maybe it was because then we got Alexis Sanchez the year after, but then after that, nothing. We got Czech. That was it. But at the same time, it kind of contradicts what he just said at the MIT conference of Arsenal just being a brand, not a football club, and that he didn't buy Arsenal to win trophies. Okay, so he cares about the bottom line. He only cares about the money. We've known that now for several years now, but now it's in print. Now it's in writing. Still from from after this weekend, there has been like kind of nothing since then, even from the Arsenal PR staff, because I think they know there's nothing that they can say at this point that will put out the fire. Because before Saturday, even afterwards, but before Saturday, the main focus was on Arsene Wenger and only Arsene Wenger. Get him out, get him out, get him out. You're seeing a lot more Wenger outs this season than any other time. That group has grown slowly over the years, and now there is a huge divide amongst Arsenal fans. But since that article came out and since those quotes came out, more people are turning their attention back to Stan Kroenke, where it was all Stan Kroenke prior to basically this season, to where uh, Wenger out people were kind of focused on Wenger out, but the Wenger in people were mainly focused on Stan Kroenke. And now you're seeing both groups focusing on Stan Kroenke. Now you'll still see some of the idiots who will say, well, what else do you expect them to say? He's a businessman, blah blah blah. Making excuses even for this guy. These are part of some of the idiots that are Wenger in that will make every excuse under the sun to keep him with the club and say that he does no wrong. It's just plain stupidity. Um, But after these, after this and after thinking about it and everything, and you know, I'm still gonna give shit as much as possible to Arsene Wenger and stuff, and the mistakes he keeps on making. But at the same time, I want to pull all my focus to try to just try to get Stan Kroenke out of here. I know it's gonna be a tough thing to do. It's especially just being a fan. But there's things that you can do as a fan to get an owner out, to oust an owner. Um, I was having a conversation on Twitter today of a fan was saying, well, how do we do this? How do we go about doing this? Because he has all the money in the world. Why would he care? Well, you can do certain things like attack him on social media, continuously attack him on social media to the point to where you start smearing his name. He recently, of course, moved the Rams from St. Louis to LA. St. Louis went out of their way during a Super Bowl, and Super Bowl ads cost anywhere from like 10 million to 20 million dollars every 30 seconds. I mean, it's just a huge ad day, and whoever runs the Super Bowl for that day, whether it's Fox or NBC or CBS, ABC, I believe, they pump up their you know the money for the ads because everybody's watching it, especially in the United States. Um, Something like 90 million, 100 million people in the United States watch the Super Bowl. So it's a great advertising day. And I believe the mayor of St. Louis did did the you can go back on Twitter and just look up St. Louis Super Bowl ad, and there's like a 30-second commercial just bashing the shit out of the guy for taking the Rams out of St. Louis uh, with no notice whatsoever, and just taking them out, leaving, going to LA. They bashed him for 30 seconds and told people how ruthless he is and everything like that, and how he doesn't care about the Rams, and how he doesn't care about the fans. It's all front and center. This is some of the stuff that some American gooners have been trying to tell people from the UK or from Europe, trying to tell other gooners that Stan Kroenke he's the worst guy to take over Arsenal. Maybe from a business side, from a profit side, obviously that's all he cares about. It's good for Arsenal, but Arsenal's not going to win any big trophies. They're not going to win the Premier League. They're not going to win Champions Leagues. Ivan Gazidis even said it last summer. Champions League is not one of our priorities to win. What is your priority to win? Their priority is to finish top four, you know, make it to the knockout stage to get some extra cash, raise ticket prices, blah blah blah. That's what they're there for. That's what they want to do. They don't care about winning. Winning to them is their profit margin, their cash reserve. That's their winning mentality. That's their trophies, so to speak. And that's what he does. That's what Stan Kroenke does. The same person asked me, well, what are their views in the United States about him? It's the same thing, and all of his teams are mediocre. But one thing that is different here at Arsenal that Stan Kroenke's any of his teams don't have is the fact that Arsenal. The last time I saw any type of fan numbers of how many fans that certain clubs have, Arsenal had over 100 million fans worldwide. Now, there's only one team in the United States that probably has that, and that's the New York Yankees. Any other team, it's basically all local. Yeah, there's some random people here and there, that follow certain teams, but they follow that certain team because they're winners, because they win things a lot. They win their division, or they win their conference, or they win, the World Series, the Super Bowl, the NBA championship, whatnot. But none of his teams have this type of following. None of his teams have anywhere near 100 million fans. Nowhere near it. And this is what's different about Arsenal, is that we do have over 100 million fans worldwide. We have over 100 million voices worldwide that can use their voices, that can use their computers, that can go on social media and start using the hashtag Kroenke out. Once the media picks up on it, they run a couple articles. Maybe they keep on running articles. You start doing protests outside the stadium. You pucker up and you spend zero money on anything Arsenal. I haven't spent anything on Arsenal since I was at the Armory last February in London. That was the last time I spent any money on Arsenal. The new kits came out during the summertime. Didn't like any of them. Third kit was god awful. Didn't like it. Even the away kit, don't like it. The gold and blue, just didn't like it. The new home kits just with the pinstripe. That's all it is. They had that little pinstripe going across the shoulder. That's all it is. That's all they basically added. They added the buttons and stuff like that, and you know that's 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 not worth me going out there and spending. Usually every single summer I spend probably around $200, $300 on some new gear, T-shirts. Maybe a hat, maybe a scarf. Maybe a couple jerseys, maybe with a couple jerseys with names on the backs. But I didn't this summer. I said, no way, I'm not going to buy these. These are, one, they're ugly. I didn't like them at all. And two, I looked what Arsenal was going to do this summer, and that was it. They just signed Petr Cech, and that was it. I was like, where's my money going? I know they had commercial deals with Puma, and Puma, if you stop buying some of this stuff, Puma's going to lower their contract the next time around. This is this summer is going to be the third year, I believe now, with Puma, the start of the third year. They only have 2 more years on their contract after this summer, after this third year. I think it was a 5-year contract. I think it was 50 million, about 40 to 50 million pounds a year that they get uh, from Puma. That's part of their commercial deals. Same with any of their other commercial deals. Gatorade, or I think they're Patty Power or whatever it is. These are some of the companies and stuff that you can avoid. You can avoid buying. You can avoid buying stuff from. And when you hit their bank account, when you hurt their bank account, when the stock starts lowering and lowering for Arsenal, all of his shares start to lower instead of get better. That's when Kroenke will break down and say, fuck it, I'm out of here. Because I think that's what he's going to be doing anyway. I think he's just building it up to where he can just dump it for such a profit that he'll have money coming out of his ass all over the place. Because I don't think it's long term. I really don't. I've been listening to some podcast over the last few weeks, and some people are wherever their sources are coming from, they really believe that you know change is coming. It's going to be through the manager as well, but it's also going to be changing of ownership, because Usinoff, he's not going anywhere. He just upped his stake to a little over 30%. I think it's like 30.4% stake he has in Arsenal, and he's not going away. Thankfully, hopefully, he's not going away. And one day, if we apply enough pressure to a Stan Kroenke, that maybe he'll just say, you know what, fuck this. My name is just being smeared all over the world. People are just saying these awful things about me, which most of them are probably true, that he's a greedy fuck and he's a piece of shit. Because one thing, millionaire, being in the United States, there's a lot of millionaires, billionaires in this country. And one thing that they hate is to be embarrassed. Another thing they hate, you know, being embarrassed is probably one of the things that they never want to ever experience. You see it on the news, you see it on, different outlets in the news outlet. Once you can embarrass them, that's when they lower their guard a little bit, because that's what they value the most, is their name and their money. Whenever you say they're, ooh, they have so much power. But once you start smearing it, once you start turning the other cheek and saying fuck you, that's when they start feeling vulnerable. That's when they don't like it. They don't like their name to be smeared. They'd like to have a quote unquote great reputation, which Stan Kroenke already doesn't have. His reputation here in the United States is not good, especially in the sports world. So those are the things that you can do as an Arsenal fan if you want him out. I changed my header. My header on my Twitter page now, it was Ozil to Sanchez ever since Sanchez signed with the club. And now I changed it to hashtag of Kroenke out. And it's going to remain there until the guy fucking leaves, hopefully sooner rather than later. Hopefully with all this pressure being put on Arsene Wenger, now he knows, okay, holy shit, they're applying so much pressure on Arsene Wenger to get sacked or to retire after the season. What's going to happen to me? And they're still trying to their PR staff is still trying to save that too as well, because the next thing I'm going to talk about is Arsene Wenger's last few press conferences. Of course, he had a press conference before the Barcelona game. Of course, they always do that before any type of Champions League game. They have their special conference where they have, the news outlets from, all over the world. Of course, in the UK, of course, in Spain, but this is when, a lot of journals come together in one place. It's almost can rival, maybe not rival the World Cup press conferences, but pretty close. A lot of people are in there. A lot of people are asking questions. But after basically the Swansea City game is when people start calling for his head. When people wanted to say, you know what, you're done. Please leave at the end of the season. And of course, the press conference prior, what was it? Prior to the Hull City game, I believe. Um, there was a lot of questions being asked of him about his future, and before this even happened, he slugged off the fans, and he even slugged them off even more because he said, you know what, I'm bored of talking about my future. I'm bored of talking about how the fans want me out. I'm bored of this. I'm bored of that. Everything is a farce. And that's the one thing I don't think Arsene Wenger calculated correctly throughout his time. Because back when we had the excuse of we're trying to pay off the Emirates, we're trying to pay off our bad debt, he still had the support of the fans, at least most of them. I would say 90 to 95% of the fans supported him, stood by him, uh, you know, stood by every single word that he said. You know, games, press conferences, you name it. Almost every single fan stood by him, and no one questioned him. There was a few fans that did, but then of course they got ousted because we all thought they were crazy. Of course, in the last several years, even last year, the year before that, you know, there's still fans trying, defending him. He still had a large portion of the fan base supporting him, and that's what made him invincible. That's what made him untouchable. That's what made him unsackable. That's what made him, well, he'll leave when he decides to leave. Now, it's a different song. Because now I really believe that 50% of the fan base is still Wenger in. The other 50% of the fan base is Wenger out. To the point now, he doesn't have the full support of the fan base anymore. And he knows that. And it irritates the shit out of him. So much that he has to talk about it in a press conference. And that was, wow. One of the worst moves that you could possibly do as a football manager, as a head coach, even as a player, to come out in a press conference or in an interview and slug off the fans like that. Because that is when you start building your own coffin. And that changed a lot of people's views on Arsene Wenger. Because just like Stan Kroenke, just like Ivan Gazidis, they don't give a shit about us. And it's pretty evident that he doesn't give a shit about us. The one part of Arsenal that you need the most to survive is the supporters. And he slugged them off like that we didn't even exist. But he didn't realize the growing number of Wenger out of that group. There's AKB, which is Arson Knows Best people, which is the Wenger in people, and then there's the Wenger out brigade, as they like to call it. He didn't realize how much larger the Wenger out brigade got over the years. Because he's senseless, he's clueless. Again, he thinks he's untouchable. But of course, his press conference today, again, another PR swing which took a fucking wrong turn again. He went on to say that, of course, a week earlier, he was saying, I'm bored of talking about my future, and this is all he could talk about almost in the press conference was his future. And one little quote that came out, and there's like a larger quote that really explains the whole thing, but he says, I built this club. I built this club with hard work and no extra money involved from outside. Okay? Last time I checked, Arsenal was formed in 1886. It's 110 years prior to Arsene Wenger actually coming to the club. Now the Arsene Wenger in people will defend every word. He said, "Well, he meant he built up the club with hard work." No, that's the stupidity trying to swing what he said to cover his ass. Once again, that's all we've been doing over the years is covering his ass. Arsene Wenger is not stupid. As pointed out by Stan Kroenke, he has an undergrad degree in economy. He's well spoken. He's been in England for almost 20 years now. He knows the language. He knows proper English. He knows how to complete a sentence without fucking it up. Now, in human nature, if you fuck up anything, if you would say, well, I built this club, but then you would correct yourself 2 seconds later and say, I helped build this club to where it is today. There's a big difference there. And I helped build this club to where it is today to I built this club. And believe me, Twitter fucking went nuts. I mean, it was just tweet after tweet, retweet after retweet. I mean, it went fucking nuts. And the PR staff, like I said, the PR staff at Arsenal must be, some of these people must be saying, you know what, I give up, I'm done. There's nothing I can do anymore. There's nothing I can say. There's no type of game plan I can come up with to save this. Now, you'll probably see pre-match tomorrow or even after the game when Arsene Wenger gets questioned about this, if there is a reasonable, journal in the fucking whole room after the Barcelona game to ask him this question. Do you really think you built Arsenal? And of course he's going to retract his statement and say, "Well, I helped build it until up until this point. From when I got to the club. That's what I meant." Human beings when they say something wrong, they'll retract it right away and they'll correct themselves right away. But he didn't. He said, point blank, I built this club. Arsenal wasn't exactly a dog shit club when he got here. It's not all because of him. Did he build the stadium? Did he pay off the stadium? Does he pay player contract? No, he collects £8.5 million every single fucking year. He is the highest paid employee at Arsenal. There's not a single player that makes more than him currently, I believe. And it's kind of crazy thinking that he makes that much money for doing what exactly? Honestly, sometimes I would just love to go there and just say, I want to follow you around for a week. I want to see what you actually do for your £8.5 million a year. He definitely doesn't manage football games anymore because, like I noted, he sits down for 80 minutes out of a 90-minute game. He doesn't bring new players in to strengthen the squad when him and Ivan Gazidis are in full control of the transfer policies and the transfers that come in and out. What does he do? I don't know. I, I guess, it's Arson FC. It's not Arsenal FC, it's Arson FC. Because apparently he built the club. He built even Highbury. You know, he's the reason why we got Terry Henry. He's the reason why we got Robert Perez and the Invincibles and blah blah blah. Even though it was all David Dean. Like he's not giving credit to anybody. It was all me. Like I said in my Arsenal Football Company video about Arsene Wenger, he really thinks this club is his. He really thinks that money sitting in that bank account is his. He is clueless. He's delusional. He's lost his sanity. Because honestly, before this press conference today, I'm sure the PR staff at Arsenal said, look, Arsene, you can't slag off the supporters like this. We need them. You can't slag them off like that. You can't talk about them like that. When somebody asks about your future, please answer the question. Once you answer the question, things might calm down a little bit. No, yeah, he answered the fucking question. He said he was more motivated now more than ever. Yeah, he said that before. He said that after the 13 and 14 season after we won the FA Cup. He said that then. He said it during the summertime. That when he finally won another trophy, he feels more motivated now than ever. He said that. Look at, go back. The articles are there, especially the Mirror. That's where they basically are with John Cross, even though I prefer Amy Lawrence, but they're there. He said that almost 3 years ago, 2 years ago. It's like he has his own little cheat sheet of answers because it says the same things over and over again. I mean, the judge us at the end of the season bullshit. Yeah, this ain't a good season to judge you on, buddy. Believe me. The day the last when that last whistle hits, you want to jump in your car as quickly as fucking possible and go hide somewhere. Because again, the supporters can, this is what Stan Kroenke doesn't understand. And obviously Arsene Wenger doesn't understand it. If you do not have the supporters, you're screwed. If you don't have the supporters coming to games, you don't have the supporters buying the merchandise, you're fucking screwed. Because do you think if everybody stops, well, not everybody, because there's a bunch of idiots out there who will keep on buying and buying and buying, no matter what, and that's what Stan Kroenke and Ivan Gazidis hope for. It's almost like a terrorist cell. You behead one terrorist, another one appears. That's how a terrorist cell works. It's almost the same thing. Once one person stops buying season tickets, another one will take his place. I'm not saying stop, going to Arsenal games and stop buying season tickets because I would never tell anybody to do that. But that is just a small, it's a big fraction, but it's not compared to all the TV contracts and all the other money that they get. But you're telling me, let's say, once the Puma contract is no more, let's say within 4 years, Puma starts, negotiating another contract for another 5 years. But that 40 or 50 million then goes down to 30 million because they say, hey, look, your fans aren't buying the merchandise. We can't keep paying you out more and more if your fans aren't paying out, for the merchandise. So we're not going to give you that 40 or 50 million or even raise it to 60 or 70 million. These are the things that we can do. But see, Stan Kroenke, Ivan Gazidis, even Arsene Wenger now, they don't understand it. Arsene Wenger has completely lost his way. because that's what he had in his back pocket was the supporters. And now it's obvious he doesn't give a shit about us. I mean, probably never did anyway. He probably just said those things to make us happy. But I mean, let's be honest. Them and the players. I mean, how much do they really care? But we care about the football club, and if you don't have us in your back pocket, you can be screwed. Last thing that anybody wants to see is empty seats on a TV screen, or last thing that Stan Kroenke wants to see on his TV, if he even bothers watching any of the games, is empty seats. Because that means they're not buying beer, they're not buying pop, they're not buying water, they're not buying food, they're not buying programs. Those are the little things that you can do to hurt a club. Those are the little things that you can do to oust an owner. Because believe me, I'm not going to buy anything. I don't care if they come out with the Mac Daddy fucking bomb ass fucking shirts next year that say, "Oh my God, those are fucking sexy as hell." No, I'm not buying them. Not worth it because you know what? My money goes nowhere. Because this summer, Arsene Wenger's going to have to pull like a few rabbits out of his hat, especially to keep a guy like Mesut Ozil and even Alexis Sanchez on board. He's going to have to go out there and buy fast, early. I don't want to hear some BS of like the World Cup year. Well, we're not going to buy anybody until after the World Cup is over. I don't want to hear that shit. I don't want to hear that. Well, we're going to start getting out there once the Euros is over. Bullshit. Get out there, sign the fucking players, bring them in, announce them. I don't give a shit if they have the game that day. Announce the motherfucker. Because that's what he's going to have to do. And it has to be a world class player. It can't be some middle of the road, um, some type of fucking phenom wonder kid. It has to be a world class player, especially a striker. It has to be. He has to do it. He has no choice anymore. Because as the season goes on, the rest of it at least, he's going to keep on losing fans because this stuff is just like I said. These last 2.5 weeks, have been an absolute nightmare for the business side of Arsenal Football Club. And it almost seems, prior to this that Stan Kroenke was probably almost okay with Arsenal falling on the sword and killing himself and resigning at the end of the season. He was probably okay with that, so that he can bring in almost even one of his guys who are not going to spend the money. They're probably we're going to end up just like all of his other teams in America. We're going to end up being mediocre. We're going to end up like Liverpool. We're going to end up like Tottenham. And believe me, if that happens, I mean, a fucking mutiny is probably going to happen. We're probably only maybe about 2 or 3 years away from that. I would think. That would be my guess. We're only about 2 or 3 years away from that. Especially if we don't even make top four this year. I mean, it's going to be a battle again, once again. But video's going on long enough. I've said my piece. Tell me what you think about it. You guys have any comments? Anything, you can do, whether it's on Twitter, Facebook, or anything. Get your voice heard. Get it out there. You know, if you have to end almost every single one of your tweets with Kroenke out, do it. Because every little bit helps. Every little bit. If you really want this guy out of the club, you have to go that extra mile a little bit. If you really care about the club, you have to go that extra mile a little bit until he is out. Because like I said, the Russian he's just sitting there waiting, and it looks like he is gonna just sit there and wait until Kroenke has had enough. And let's hope he doesn't go anywhere because I think that's the type of guy who will not only make us still profitable and still make us a shitload of money, but he's not afraid to hold people accountable. Obviously he wrote that letter to the Arsenal board a couple of years ago that he wasn't happy with how the club was being run, how Arsene Wenger wasn't being held accountable, that the players weren't being held accountable, that we weren't buying the right players to strengthen the squad. That's the type of guy you want there. Some people are afraid to say that he's just gonna bleed, the club dry, that he's just gonna put us in bankruptcy. He's a businessman, okay, but he also cares about the club. That's the big difference between him and Stan Kroenke. Stan Kroenke wants to make money, and that's all he cares about. He only cares about the business side. He doesn't care about the fans. He doesn't care about if the team wins or loses. Okay, to where Usanoff does care. He wants to see world class players here at Arsenal. He wants to see us win trophies, but he's a businessman on top of that. He's not going to fucking bankrupt us. And if he does, it'll be a fun ride. I mean, you know, you know, it'll be a fun ride while it's at it, because he won't be afraid to go out there and tell whomever the manager is, buy this player, and get this player in. They're all world class. Bring them in, and we'll pay them. That's the type of change we need. That's the type of change that we've been waiting for, that we were lied to this entire time. Like I said, we were told by Stan Kroenke, Ivan Gazidis, Arsene Wenger that we were going to be able to compete with any club in the world. I mean, that means Barcelona and Real Madrid and Bayern Munich, and Man United, who had the most money. We still haven't done it. We still haven't done it, and we definitely can't compete with them on the pitch. So things need to change. As fans, we need to do what we think is best. But that's it. Tell me what you think, and yeah, later.